Readyo Radio. That's Readyo Radio on UrbanNationRadio.com. If you're not aware that we've been talking about media a lot today, given that it's the 90th anniversary celebration of Malcolm X, and that was one of his biggest statements to the people all around the world, is that controlling media is important. We have an app that you can watch our show every Tuesday night, 8 to 10 p.m. On the Urban Nation Radio app. That's the Urban Nation Radio app. If you're tuning in live right now, you can go to the Google Play Store, or you can go to
iTunes.
The App Store. And download Urban Nation Radio, and you can go click on Readyo Radio. Looks red, black, and green like this. And you can watch our show live. And I think it's a show and a half loaded up there. We'll continue to press forward on that. And so we were transitioning into, how controversial Malcolm X was on race and some of the things. And Kojo, I know you wanted to share another one of the excerpts from his autobiography.
Yeah, I wanted to share this one here. This is from beginning of chapter 6, titled Detroit Red. And the reason I share this one is there's a lot of our people now who are bickering and fighting over the littlest things. So-and-so ate shrimp, and shrimp is related to cockroaches, so you shouldn't eat shrimp because you're going to die. And it's a lot of judgmental things going on. And here's Brother Malcolm, who had the title Detroit Red because he moved to Detroit, and he was a street dude. And we talked about earlier about how he had this way of being eloquent with his words in the media, but he also had a way of coming back to the streets and talking to them as well in their language. So this is some of the reasons how he had that ability. So it reads: every day I would gamble all my tips as high as $15 and $20 on the numbers, and I would dream of what I would do when I hit. I saw people on their long, wild spending sprees after big hits. I don't mean just hustlers who always had some money. I mean ordinary working people, the kind that we otherwise almost never saw in a bar like Smalls, who with a good enough hit had quit their jobs working somewhere downtown for the white man. Often they had bought a Cadillac, and sometimes for 3 or 4 days they were setting up drinks and buying steaks for all their friends. I would have to pull 2 tables together into one, and they would be throwing me $2 and $3 tips each time they came with my tray. I came with my tray. Hundreds of thousands of New York City Negroes, every day but Sunday would play from a penny on up to large sums on 3-digit numbers. A hit meant duplicating the last 3 figures of the stock exchange printed daily total of U.S. domestic and foreign sales. With odds at 600 to 1, a penny would win $6, a dollar would win $600, and so on. On $15, the hit would win $9,000. Famous hits like that bought controlling interest in lots of Harlem bars and restaurants, and even bought some of them outright. And I share that again because here's a guy who now is infamous, and I just one of the things I listened to it's an audio book I listened to. It's also a physical book called I'm drawing a blank right now. I'll get back to that. But
who wrote it?
It's a book, I can't think of the author. It's about the ego.
Wayne Dyer?
Nah, it's
Osho.
We'll get back to it. But the point of it is, the name of the book is important. What is important is we are currently a working art. We're a work in progress, so to speak, and you can't judge a work of art until it's fully complete. And a lot of us are looking at people in their mid-stride or mid-stroke of their artwork, and they're saying, that's not right, this isn't, but at the end of the day, we have to be humble enough and full of love enough to, number one, express what it is we see, but from a place of love. If you see a person doing things that's harmful, let them know, but in a way that it isn't so much about them being a horrible person. Now, again, Malcolm X was attacking the system, which deliberately and intentionally was doing things to harm people, and that's a whole different beast. But if you would know, if some of us would have known Malcolm X today, it would be, why he's not doing the right thing, and he, this, that, and the third, and we tend to break each other down. I just wanted to share that as we segue into the racial discussion, because it comes into play when we start talking in our inner circles, how we build together and whatnot.
I want to build on because this is the racial segment. If you look at what Malcolm X and Farrakhan and all of them practiced, they called it Islam, but was it really Islam? Because how many, Middle Eastern Muslims do you see wearing suits? How many do you see without beards? Most of them have long beards, whereas everybody in the Nation of Islam was clean shaven. And so I think that goes to show the forward thought of, Farah Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad and those leaders, to show how powerful religion is to unify the people. So they unify under Islam, which was offering a diversion away from Christianity, because I think they see, kind of what Christianity has done. So that was still offered the religious, I guess, feeding their religious appetite, but yet it allowed them to divert away from Christianity and become disciplined. And, that raised a lot of black males and females. And I wrote down some of the positives that they had, because they did have their own schools as well as classes in the mosque. And some of the things that they were taught was how to build self-sufficient communities, which is what our goal is here at Readyo Radio. For the women, they had nutrition and childbearing classes, how to be a good wife, and how marriage should go, which is what we should be taught in schools, because they want everybody to be married. And, majority of the time people will have kids. I mean, you eat every day, so why wouldn't you have nutrition? But yet they teach you Pythagorean theorem, something that you might use one time in your life. It's like totally backwards. And then for the men, they had parental classes, they had male responsibility, they had history and religion class, and then they have a select group called the Fruit of Islam, or the FOI, in which they taught them hand-to-hand combat and self-defense techniques, so they could, defend themselves against the police or any other type of attackers. And
defend the nation as a whole,
right?
The Nation of Islam as a whole,
right?
We talked about this before when we were talking about defense, our episode on defense, that if you can't defend it, you don't really own it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not that you want to. We really want to. When you look at your body, if people talk about, always put up, Martin Luther King against Malcolm X and all these other, kind of unfair comparisons. At the end of the day, we know that it's true. If you really can't, we know this innately. If I can't defend myself, do I really own my body? If I'm not free to protect myself against intrusion. And so I think that's the masterminds, I'll call them masterminds behind the Nation of Islam.
Right. It was powerful. They took a lot of those sleeping, black people that was walking around here, brainwashed by Christianity or whatever, brainwashed by the media, and they taught them, that they were the cream of the crop. And it wasn't hard for Malcolm to see, because when he was in grade school, he went to an all-white school, but yeah, he had a 4.0, and he was top of the class, and he was class president. And a lot of people don't know that. They think that, he was just some uneducated guy who got educated in jail, but he wasn't. He was already smart. He wasn't dumb. It just, he had the guy to teach him different things and foster that, the intelligence that he already had. But,
There's a lot of street hustlers who are you have to be smart. You have to be intelligent. Right. And
numbers real quick.
I don't know if people know this, but one aspect of Detroit Red in those days is he was dating a lot of white women. He would take white women to go to the rich neighborhoods and knock on the door, come in. They would look through the house and figure out what was valuable, what wasn't valuable, and they would go and tell him, and they would come in on the weekend and still, he was basically robbing people. Yeah. But that's a highly intelligent person to realize, they trust white women, so I'm gonna get me some white girlfriends, and then so he had this strategy in his head. And actually, when they ended up getting busted, the ring they were doing, like he got the most time only because he was the mastermind behind it, and he deliberately went out and sought white women for his gain, and they was not having that, and they're still not having that these days. So
and they wanted the white women to press charges against them to say that they raped them. Right. Like the police told them like they raped you, right? Like they wanted them to accuse them of because it was him and another guy together, but they wanted the white women that were with them in the robbery to accuse them of raping them, but they refused. But if they did, they probably would have got longer time. They only end up getting about 10 years. I mean, not only, but it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
It's deep.
Yeah, I feel another aspect to his story is his story, not history, but his story. Is that it happened, how it happened, it was a recipe, and it was for that time. And nowadays, I kind of feel like a lot of us are looking to the past, and it's important to look to the past just to understand where you are, but we have to be futuristic nowadays. We have to look to what do we want, just like he did. He saw what was going on. He was in jail and realized, well, when I get out of here, there's something else. I can't just keep thinking about when I was, Detroit Red. I have to understand who Malcolm X is, and I have to understand what Malcolm X is to become. And nowadays we don't live in those same times, so we're all looking for the media again. If we're looking for the media to create the next Malcolm X, we're sadly mistaken. If we're looking for like that type of message, I don't think that type of message is relevant nowadays to a certain extent. I mean, his words are relevant, but this concept of let's all segregate and just not deal with other people. Us as a people have become so integrated that we have to face where we are right now. And where we are right now is we have to become accountable. Like the white man has, like even Malcolm X was saying, the white man has stopped becoming the blame of everything. Yes, there are certain oppressions that happen to us, but when do we rise up and start going to our communities and building? When are we willing to risk our lives for the sake of our children and our children's children? Like that's where we have to go. We have to realize there's no one to blame but that man in the mirror anymore. And at one point in time in history, when as a whole we were oppressed and actually slaves, even then we had the choice of I'd rather die than be a slave. But of course that's extreme. Nowadays it's extreme, but it's not. How can I put it? As soon as you decide to do for yourself, they don't blow your brains out like they used to. So now we actually do have more liberty on some level to go out and just create change. And it's just interesting that over time, from then until now, the mental conditioning and the brainwashing has been such a deep scale that even with this newfound freedom, we're not really capitalized on it. So one of my messages, I know a lot of us don't like to hear, but we gotta stop doing what we've been doing and do something new and quit blaming the white man for everything.
To that, because I agree with a lot of what Brother Kojo was saying, but I will say that it's really important to acknowledge the system that is before us. You have to know your enemy, and not to say that. And again, white people, their bodies are not the enemy. It's the system of white supremacy that is the enemy, and it employs blacks, whites. It employs all different shapes, sizes, machines. It employs everything at its disposal to keep us separated and confused. And so, on one hand, I do agree that we need to stop blaming the white man, but we must not lose sight of the history the past, I should say. We need to learn from the past
and the present. Because the system is still here.
It's still here, and it's a evolving organism. It's like an energetic organism that is growing. And one of the things I wanted to say to that is it gets down to how, like you said, by any means necessary. At what point, where you need to find out where is your line in the sand. Where a lot of people have not determined where their line in the sand is. They just snap. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so you ask yourself, when they try to come take my kid, and I followed all the laws. I've done everything. Okay, I didn't want to give my kids the pills, and they want to take my kids. Maybe that's your line in the sand. Maybe somebody took your job, or maybe somebody did something to you. Figure out what's your line in the sand. A lot of people don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think that's for me. I think that's really a key point.
That's powerful. Yeah.
And identify that kind of goes into what is your self-interest. And just really quickly, we can go into this a little later. Self-interest is one's regard for one's interest or advantage, one's personal interest or advantage, especially when pursued without regard to others. So that's just something to leave you with as we go to break. So what is your self-interest? And that's how these groups of people organize. Even in large cities, they organize because they have self-interest. They identify, we're better together than we are split apart. So I want to take a quick break and come back with some more of this powerful discussion. This is Readyo Radio, episode 38, Homage to Malcolm X. Peace and power.
I'd like to give a toast to you. Toast to the gods. Yeah, cheers. Said all they teach kids bullshit. Take this journey with me. Listen, we were once kings. I do it for the ones who created it all. The black one, send a shout out to the queens. Fuck the line.